Hello and welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 29. My name is Jameel Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today, as always. Today, I'm going to catch you up on a few things, a couple of major changes to my life, and then also just a couple of things that I've been pondering, right? This is the Binge Thinker. We're thinking about things, probably a little bit too much, maybe not enough. That's the nature of the mind, right? This crazy, chaotic thing. Because I've been away, I thought, there are plenty of things that irritate me in life. And, I'm probably going to share that a bit more because I've realized that friction and that irritation is the genesis of things like comedy and funny things and what provokes these thoughts. Most of the things we think about, what we are naturally inherently supposed to do as individuals in our nature is to detect anomalies. And that's the basis of, hey, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is that? So thought I would catch up on a few things. Also got a bit of a major decision, a major life change for you guys. Why am I trying to act like there's this sizzle reel to it? Let's just get into it, right? First of all, I'm recording this on a Sunday after grand final here in Melbourne for the AFL grand final. My Swans got fucking thrashed. It was a decimation. We did not show up as a team. I'm very sad about that. I mean, if we had at least put up a fucking fight, it would have been good. My goodness, we got completely overwhelmed as a young team. It wasn't even entertaining. I kind of switched off. Once we hit about 10 goals, we were down by 10 goals. I was like, this is done. And that was it. It's another disappointing grand final. Just like 2014 when we got thrashed by Hawthorn and didn't have didn't have any fight. Really, really disappointing. I don't know why we keep investing in Sam Reid. Clearly, he is one of Longmire's favourites. I love Horse. He's a great coach. He's taken us through great periods of time over the last 20 years. Sydney has only missed finals 3 times in the last 20 years. And yeah, he's done a good job. It's just that the squad is young, and that's what's really actually quite, what the positives are, right? We've got a young squad. Most of our kids are, 23 or younger, which is very young in football terms. So we've got a few great years ahead for the team. It's disappointing that we lost, but Geelong were more deserving on the day. They've got an old squad. Chris Scott really fucking invested into his team, and fuck, it paid off eventually, right? He's got an old squad. A few of them will fall off after this season, and maybe there's a rebuild. But we got wrecked, and God bless Geelong. Good for them. I'm still proud of my boys, my Swans, and we'll get them next year or the year after that. But yeah, that's been on my mind a little bit over the last 24 hours is sadness. So the big news that I want to share with people is that I've taken a bit of a major decision in life, and I'm going to discontinue ACN as a content aggregator and put the whole thing on hold for a while. This has been part of my, reflection time, taking my break for the last month and a bit off. Now that I looked back at where I was at content-wise and putting things out, it's been almost 2 months since I've put anything out on ACN. And the reason why I'm discontinuing it is for a variety of reasons. And one of them is, it's just not, quite simply, it's not really working. And the reason why it's not working is for a number of things which I'll go through with you right now, right? Is that going through this process of content aggregation, curation, trying to scour the internet for quality Australian talent, comedically, creatively, and particularly in the digital realm, has been a real challenge. It's been a real challenge because essentially we are at a point in time where... Whoop, something is beeping at me. Sorry, guys. Ah, shit. I asked for a stopwatch, not a timer. Let me do that again. So yeah, it's been quite challenging, right? Yes, we're in the early stages of content creation and mastery as an industry here in Australia, particularly in the comedic world. And the reason for that is because holistically, the entire scene is quite undeveloped compared to our UK and US counterparts, who are really the fathers of comedy in Australia, coming from our cultural backgrounds and so forth. So finding quality content has been a challenge because my market or where I'm sourcing information from and content from are from newish comedians and comedians that actually know less about the art form of creating content and quality content, as well as quality jokes, because being a comedian, as I've said before, is a 10-year apprenticeship, right? And with that 10-year apprenticeship comes mistakes. And now that the digital world has taken over, particularly post-pandemic, as I've railed upon, many times on this pod, that's a new skill set that needs to be learned. And a lot of people don't have that skill set or are developing it slowly over time. I mean, the vast majority of content creators in Australian comedy are just using their phone in selfie mode. And most of them don't have great cameras to begin with because they're on shitty phones. Why? Because they're open mic comedians. So essentially what I've created or what I've curated now is an open mic for Australian content creators and comedians. This is for the majority, right? And there are some fantastic individuals out there creating great stuff. I've mentioned them in the past. But the reality is the bulk of what I am trying to sift through is in its very early stages of personal development by the creator, myself included, right? I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone else. I definitely am not. I've made plenty of mistakes. I'm constantly learning about the process of content creation. I mean, this podcast is only 6-ish months old, right? And I've made plenty of production mistakes. I'm still learning about how to produce, and it's a constantly iterating process. So this isn't necessarily it's definitely not a direct critique of anyone. This is just the reality of the situation that I see, is that, it's a nice to have idea when it comes to servicing comedians and the emerging creator industry and the emerging creative industry for Australians in the digital world. But what I'm doing isn't necessarily quality, right? It's certainly, it was a lot of quantity that I put out, as was the trend, right? A few months ago when TikTok started to really blow up post-pandemic, was to just put out content as frequently as you can. But there's always this shift in this duality between quantity and quality. And the quantity was there, but the quality was quite low. So do I really want that to be aligned to who I am as an individual and what the brand stands for? No, I am a person of quality, right? I'm a little bit bougie. I like things done to a high standard. I keep myself, I think, to a pretty high standard. So as a reflection of that, what is available to me, as an aggregator isn't necessarily what I want to represent me. So as a result, I'm going to step back from that part for a while, and I'm going to focus more on, I'm basically going back to the drawing board, right? I'm actually learning more how to become a producer. I've bought a shitload of books all around, but you can't see them, on filmography. Is that a word? I know cinematography, something like that. Yeah, cinematography. Learning how to really use my tools, master this new skill set, because I'm at, day one myself of this journey. I mean, I've said this before. When I started this podcast, I couldn't even face the camera properly. So I've still got my own journey of self-learning and confidence and skills to go through. And instead of being someone that doesn't really have that skill set, I can't really be pushing that out into the market if I don't have the skills and the expertise myself and how to critique and uplift and lead by example, right? So really the focus now for me is to take a step back from that, focus on myself, focus on my own skills, become a better content creator, become a better creative as well. that's another thing, is that all this focus on the business side of comedy, right? This is a comedy business. I'm focused too much on the business and not enough on the comedy. And by that, I mean my own comedy, my own creativity, my own capabilities, as a creative individual. I didn't come in here to be just the shitty agent or the business-minded guy, right? These are my skills, yes, absolutely. But they are not what I want to lead with as an individual in this industry. I want to be a part of it. I want to have fun. I got into this because I enjoy making people laugh, spreading joy, and then now through this podcast and my various other plans is to spread consciousness and expand on that. So, I'm going to take this opportunity now to also expand my creative capabilities, not just in comedy, but probably go back to things like music. Like, music was my original love. Before I was a comedian, I was a professional musician. I've always been inherently funny, but music is my first passion. And, thinking about the contents of my mind, as we do on this pod, I'm constantly thinking musically. Like, it's very uncommon for me to not have some sort of tune in my head, some sort of music, songs, just constantly playing it as a loop. Is that ADHD brain? I don't know, but it keeps me entertained, right? So, I don't know. I probably will do a few episodes on how music has influenced me and my life, but there's always been this yearning to get back into it. From 12 years old, I was playing bass through high school. When I was 19, I was part of a battle of the bands, won 10 grand with the cover band I was with at the time. I was a great bass player in high school. So, that was probably the first thing I really focused on as an individual and just really deeply fell in love with the art of playing music. I used to, get geeky about musical equipment, right? So that was my first time I started acquiring a shitload of gear for no reason, amps and pedals and other basses and guitars. And I used to tinker with them. Back in the glory days of eBay and when Gumtree, before people knew what things were worth on the internet, I used to flip basses. I used to buy cheap guitars and cheap basses on eBay. People were just getting rid of them. I'd do a bit of research on them, put a bid in, tune them up, flip them, right? Make a few bucks. And this is me at like 16, 17. So there's the crumbs of my entrepreneurial skill, huh? So it makes sense to go back into things like that, and to disidentify, or not disidentify, but diversify what validates me as a creative, right? Am I going to be a comedian? Yes. Am I going to put all my eggs in that basket? No. Because, I've found over time, particularly in the earlier stages of being a comedian in the open mic scene and whatnot, just taking a backward step and seeing how much people invest into a singular form of identity, i.e. being a comedian, and how damaging it can be to your well-being, because it is a creative art form and you might be passionate about it, but if you invest too much of it, and like I've said many times in this podcast, in that hierarchy of commitment, identity is the highest form of commitment. Putting all your eggs in that basket means if anything gets shaky in that world, you are going to really decrease your perspective on life and, what you perceive to be happiness when your sole form of identity is under threat for whatever reason. Is it the gig you don't get? Is it, you think someone's getting ahead of you and they shouldn't be? All those sorts of things, right? All the ridiculous scarcity games we play in our own heads when it comes to identity and climbing up any form of societal ladder. So that's the thing as well, is that because I focus on the business side of things and I'm really investing my energy into other people as opposed to myself, I put myself at risk at the volatility of the individuals and the people that I trust and invest into as a part of this business. So far, that's been mixed results. There's been some great people that I've met along this journey that, I trust and have great connections with, and I'm very grateful for, some of those in particular, like Gavin, Ingham, and, Gabe, fantastic individuals. It's been great to see them start creating together as well. That's the beauty of what the network could be capable of, is to get great people collaborating together and creating amazing things, which they have. And I'm really excited for what they can create together, even if it's outside of me. I don't give a shit. This is about caring and sharing and giving, right? But the problem in that is I have a tendency to overreach on those sorts of things. And I'm starting to recognize that in myself now by moving into survival mode, because I'm so concerned about the future and the success of, what I'm trying to invest in, which is ACN, but putting it in the hands of people and individuals that don't necessarily align to my standard or my vision. And that, for me, creates a lack of psychological safety, because I have trust issues. I'm willing to say that. That's part of the work that I've been working on here. Is it's very difficult for me to inherently trust people because of various traumas that we'll definitely unpack in later episodes of this pod. But I think one of the reasons why I like being a leader is because I like control. I enjoy control because it provides me psychological safety, because I back myself in to keep me secure or to aim towards an outcome that is beneficial for me. And I also trust myself to create outcomes that are beneficial for the greater good, because I recognize the value of good karma and putting things out positively. And it's part of my individual mission to be a net positive contributor to society. That's the base of what I'm trying to aim for by all of the elements that I put out into the outer world. So with that, and releasing the potential for success from other people, I back myself in further, which gives me a lot more personal relief, because I trust me to get the things I need done for me. I've done it so far with my physical and mental health, aligning spiritually, focusing on things and getting towards some positive outcomes, right? So really, it's less about investing outwardly in others and doubling down on myself. As a creative, as a musician, expanding the dimensions of my creativity, focusing on my own brand as an individual. Because one of the things that I've recognized from where I take success from, right? So one of the things that I do to contextualize success in other aspects of my life. Did I say that right? No. So what I do is I contextualize success in other parts of my life and try to bring them into the current form of what I'm doing now. So when I talk about why I've invested into myself as an individual, in a business sense, the reason why I have the confidence to do that is because I've spent a lot of time being successful in a corporate and a more structured business setting, right? I've been in sales my entire career. I've been successful at that. I've gotten multiple awards, case studies. I've got the receipts, right? So what I try and do is contextualize what made me successful in sales, in business, and try and find the equivalence of that in building out whatever I'm doing for me right now, right? So, for example, again, one of the most important things that I own and every individual should own is their integrity, is their individual name. And I used to say that to customers all the time because it's true, right? The most important thing is that you own is your integrity to yourself and to others, because that's how great relationships are formed. That's how you build trust. And that's how you build lasting quality relationships and play long-term games with long-term people. That's a great little snippet I got from Naval Ravikant's Almanac. We'll talk about that book. I think I'll do a full book review Fantastic insights from Naval. We'll go more into that in a different episode. So what does that look like? It looks like me shifting into more of a solopreneur. I don't like the term entrepreneur, but it is what it is. A solopreneur is just someone that invests in themselves and their brand and who they are and what they can do. So that's going to be the shift for a while, focusing, developing my own personal brand in the creative world. I've got heaps of ideas to create content with, particularly doubling down on this podcast, making things more interesting and engaging and going into real depth in certain topics that I find interesting, getting more guests and having more contextualized conversations of consciousness and how we expand that, and having a bit more fun with things, really investing into this, because I was getting pretty lazy with doing this podcast and I really want to invest more of my writing and editing capabilities. I still think I could be more succinct and provide even more value to you, dear listener, over time. So, we're at the start of something pretty fun, pretty engaging. So strap in, motherfuckers, because it's going to be great. And you know what? So reflecting back on basically wrapping up most of what ACN is, I've had a lot of time to reflect about how I felt about it, because this hasn't been a necessarily easy decision, right? And the reason why is because, again, talking about identity is the highest form of commitment. And I have made some very significant commitments to myself and definitely put out into the market and into others to say that I'm going to do this and I'm going to go in this direction. And I've taken a lot of people on that journey with me and they've aligned to the cause, which is very nice and very gratifying. But now I'm sort of negating that, right? I'm really stepping away from it. And it's a hard course to shift from because of how much effort I've put in. I've invested so much time, energy, money, and then again, I've put my identity on the line as the founder of ACN, as a producer, as a comedian, and I've got branding that says all of that. But then just to go, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to scuttle the majority of this, right? So that's the real hard part that I've had to get past, is again, disidentifying from this element of my life as a source of success and growth and individuality. As someone that contributes to ACN or, is building ACN as a platform for others. I'm not 100% sure at the moment what it's going to look like as a platform in general. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to shift it into a production house and then just put out things that I produce on it. This podcast, potentially is part of that as well. But I have to get the branding right around it. So again, it's still, there's still a bit of dust to settle. There's still lots of disjointed pieces, but that's fine. That's part of the process, right? You build things up. If things fall over, there's going to be pieces. It's okay. So I guess the hardest part has been that. And, there is definitely part of me that goes, hey, you failed, right? But for the most part, it hasn't been. But there is definitely this critical aspect when it comes to making this decision that I go, yeah, you failed, right? Which is a judgment. But for me, it's really about learning, right? This has been a tremendous learning experience. I understand the nature of this scene, this environment. And, I've learned a lot about myself in this process, about where my gaps are, where my strengths are, how much I'm willing to commit to an outcome in this time. I've worked like 60 to 80 hours per week for the last 6-ish months, right? Working in my new job and then working on this, right? Running multiple gigs, planning out more shows, building ideas, scheduling content, learning how to edit, learning about business strategy, learning about the creator economy. It's been learning after learning after learning. It's been an a massive source of education. So I take that away as, something, as a real positive, right? And most of me doesn't think I've failed at all, really. I'm choosing to focus on that because I've been always so easy to be self-critical when I fuck something up. But over the last few years, as I've had to rebuild my self-image, my self-esteem, and, become a real centered sense of self, that's been one of the greatest takeaways that I've sensed from this, is the lack of self-criticism about making a decision like this and focusing on the fact that I don't feel it serves me anymore. And that, honestly, I'm fucking relieved. I'm relieved that I'm letting this go, that I'm letting go of this attachment of what I think it could be, despite the fact that I have invested hundreds of hours over the last 12 months, thousands of dollars, right? All of my energy. I haven't shut the fuck up about it in many capacities for the last 12-ish plus months. And yeah, I'm willing to just be like, see ya. And that's weird. In a good way. It's just strange to observe in my own mind. Because, yeah, anytime that I had major setbacks in life, yeah, definitely really massively self-critical. But I guess that's just necessarily just a sign, a better alignment to myself, what I tell myself, the stories that I tell myself about who I am as an individual. And to be honest, and to be real, is like, you know what? I'm fucking proud of the work that I've done here. Because I tried. Number one, I fucking tried, I had an idea, I had a vision. I don't necessarily disbelieve in the vision. It's just that, as heartwarming and as gratifying as it could be, it's not ready. I don't really think the scene is ready for this, or it doesn't really necessarily need this, because there is a gigantic meritocracy inside comedy. If you are great, you will find a way. But you've got to put yourself out there, right? And really, things like social media, which are scale tools, that means if they're a scale tool, then they don't really need me to do so, right? The algorithms will take care of that. I could have built the brand. The brand idea still works, and I still think it's definitely a useful thing to have, a brand that you can realign, and people did align to it when it was working well. But yeah, it just doesn't need, it's not necessary what I'm doing right now. And there's no business model shaped around it. And I just don't have the motivation or the gut sensation to keep chasing this, right? But to go back is about to say, yeah, I'm really fucking proud of what I've done. I've learned that I can commit heart and soul into something that I believe in. Not that I didn't think I could before, but this has been intense, right? I've committed to improving my body over the lockdowns. I've committed to constantly improving my mind, expanding consciousness, developing my own self-awareness, and that's a constant ongoing journey, but I'm committed to that journey. I'm committed to the pursuit of expanding consciousness through my various forms, various art forms. So committing to a business, something that I can believe in, and I still believe in to a degree, it just shows that the drive is there. I've just got to make some annotations, right? I've got to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Most businesses, take 3 to 5 years to really establish themselves as a brand, to create longevity. There is this, the duality of all things. If you've got a peak experience, you're going to hit a peak drop pretty quickly as well, right? So remembering that anything that I do for the long term is going to be a 3 to 5 year game, and I could not sustain what I'm doing for the next 3 to 5 years. And yeah, I'd fucking be dead, or I would be crashing worse again in 6 more months. So it's not worth it. But it's also taught me to care less about what other people think as well. Because you realize in this process, when you're putting your name on the line, when you're putting yourself and your own individual brand on the line, you think that people don't care. And they don't, because they're too busy caught up in their own worlds. And there's just a significant indifference, right? Because people are in what's in it for them. That's it, Never underestimate the power of self-interest. Even altruism doesn't exist, I believe. Altruism does not really exist. We are denying the feeling that we enjoy giving and that we have this subliminal understanding of karma and positivity, I think, for the most part. So the flip side of that is that I couldn't help but feel taken from a fair bit because I was putting myself out there. But again, nobody asked me to do this. So I can't expect them to give something in return. This wasn't an exchange. This was a push out into the market. And by that degree, if no one's asking for it, then I can't really expect an exchange in return. And because I don't really sense the value of what I'm doing now, it doesn't make any sense to continue doing it. Because I didn't get into this to serve other people. Well, I did. That's not true. I did. I had this vision of connecting artists and comedians and creatives together. And I still want to do that, and I'll do that in a different degree. The values of what ACN are don't change. They don't die. They're just in alignment of my own personal values as the founder of the organization. So I can take the framework, the vision, the values, the mission, and just apply that to my own life, and this is what I'll do. But I guess, what I'm saying is, to go back, I'm closing a chapter to an extent. Will it come back in some way or form? Maybe. I don't know. All I know is I tried. I'm glad I tried. I've learned a lot. So many valuable lessons about life, business, just lots of great learnings. And that's something I'm passionate about, constantly learning. And then I'm just happy I did it. Happy I gave it a shot. Lessons become mistakes when you make the same mistake twice. So, I'm not trying to go back in for round 2 to try and make the same mistakes. So I've got to take that away from this experience. For those that have been involved, thank you very much. I'm really grateful for those that have aligned to the mission, the values of what ACN is. I'm really grateful that there are so many people that did believe in what I was doing. Got lots of great messages, people that, were happy to contribute, happy to get involved, got lots of great feedback. But, good intents don't pay the bills, and they don't build a business that the market's not mature enough for yet. That's how I feel about it. But hey, I learnt, we move on. Thank you for those that are involved. And let's see what happens in the next chapter of life. All right, let's lighten the mood, shall we? So, been away for a little bit, just seeing what's around, what's in the news, what's happening in this crazy, insane world, the new normal, what the fuck is going on out there. And the thing that sticks out to me right now is Andrew Tate. And he's obviously blown up all over TikTok and Instagram and social media. And you know what? Andrew Tate is fucking hilarious, right? Andrew Tate is hilarious at an arm's distance if you do not take in his bullshit. Like, there's always been this hubbub about him and his fucking... I can only describe him as hyper-masculine, right? He is just this hyper-masculine, ultra-success-focused, dopamine-addicted individual that's espousing, just a whole bunch of red pill bullshit, right? And if you don't know what the red pill is red pilling is this internet term. I think it was coined on Reddit or something like that. It's really this like skeptical type of wokeness that I think comes from a very wounded masculine place, right? Being red-pilled essentially means that you've got this cynical view of the world, seeing the Matrix. This is where I came from, right? The Matrix, and taking the red pill and going down the rabbit hole and all that sort of shit. And just being cynical about society's inherent structures and systems, as we should be, right? Because they haven't really served the majority of the people for quite some time. But there's definitely this perspective on red pilling that comes from the disenfranchised male and the disenfranchised masculine, right? And that particularly comes from, you know, things like the incels, the basement dwellers. You know, there's this degree of misogyny. There is this degree of hurt, right? There's definitely a collective of individuals that have essentially been rejected by society. And that's what happens. It's generational, right? Andrew Tate to me is Gen Z's Ziz, right? Just this hyper-masculine individual, super focused on one particular aspect of masculinity. For Ziz, it's about getting juiced and being shredded at all costs, and it cost him his life. And Andrew Tate is really all about, you know, I think he's probably a bit more diverse than Ziz, now that I think about it, right? Because he does show off the fact that he's a multifaceted individual, that he's fit, he's a fighter, he's a businessman. Apparently he's got a shitload of wives. So, you know, again, just this trope of material success, right? And that's the problem, is that the disenfranchised youth, particularly the males that invest into people like Ziz and Andrew Tate, and any, you know, sort of bro-esque sort of figure that we have in society, is that they are trying to address the internal lack of direction and understanding and just acknowledgement, you know, of that feeling of less than that's inherent in a lot of males' lives, right? And that's a broader societal problem with a lack of healthy masculine examples in the world, in society in general. I mean, who would be the positive male role models in society at the moment that are inherently famous, successful, wealthy, that sort of thing? The Rock, maybe? You know, he's a family man. He's got his brands. He's serving his people, his culture. It kind of used to be Schwarzenegger back in the day, but you could probably argue that point. Like, who are the good dudes in society? Who are the men that we look up to? I mean, super wealthy people like Bezos and Musk are criticized for being billionaires, but what they've done is something that's inherently positive for the world. And then there is this degree of envy that comes from those that have that lack within themselves to make it easier to criticize the people that have things and try and tear them down societally and socially. So that's what, you know, that's the problem at the broader sense of why Andrew Tate is popular. He is a symptom of the broader disease. And it's until we get better individuals out there that can showcase more holistic and more fulfilling values in the masculine, we're going to keep having this problem societally and generationally, I think. And that's the problem, is that where are all the good men? Where are they? You know? And what are the good values that we should be eschewing to our youth? I mean, that's part of why I do this podcast, is because I had the same lack of values, of fulfillment, I was a disenfranchised male youth as well. And it wasn't until I filled my own cup and learned how to find that fulfillment and search for that fulfillment internally, but I had to do that out of my own nous. And I understand that inherently there are others that are not as privileged as I am to chase those ideas and just fulfill and self-fulfill and really scratch that itch and search for that internally as opposed to externally. What do we do about Tate? What do we do about Andrew Tate? First of all, you shouldn't censor him. The fact that we have gotten rid of him on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, it's a terrible idea. Cancel culture does not work. There is duality to all things, right? Whatever you deny to people, it creates more tension for them to acquire it. That's the way it's always worked. You create this tension and people get attracted to it, right? Think about the Prohibition era with alcohol. It didn't work. People found a way to drink. Think about the war on drugs. Hasn't worked. 15, 30 years ago, we were trying to minimize drugs at all costs. Now we've come to realize with the counterculture that it's actually inherently useful for you if used in secure medical settings, right? So if you've got these believers who are looking up to Tate and then you deny the people what they want, which is to access him in a public forum, then you're just going to create more resistance to the norm. And you're probably just going to create and just deepen this polarizing nature of cancel culture versus woke culture versus the right versus the left. And that it hasn't worked. It just has not worked. Societally, the pendulum is swinging back from political correctness to not so political correctness, right? And I, for one, welcome that because for the most part, it creates unnecessary tension in the environment. And what I mean by that is, I think I've said this before in the podcast, is like when I make jokes about race, about, something that can be heavy-handed, it always creates tension, right? But white people feel the most tension when I make racially based jokes. Why? Because their white guilt kicks in. And that's really the majority of political correctness. It's been formulated by the extreme left and then bandied and reinforced by the less extreme left because of wanting to align to the ideals of what they expect society expects them to be, right? To be liberal, good individuals. Oh, I'm good, therefore I must think these things and I must not say these things about individuals or races or cultures and that sort of thing. But again, that just creates the distance between all of us, It creates the black and white, right? Instead of the billion shades of grey in between. So, yeah, silencing people has not worked and it will continue to not work. What you do is you let people have access to these sorts of ideals because they're going to find it anyway and you're just going to create resistance if you don't. But you've got to replace what's going on and what they desire with something that's more valuable and more meaningful to their lives. Again, positive role models, listening to these disenfranchised men and youths about why they feel the need to align their value systems and their beliefs and their identity to someone like Tate, right? I thoroughly believe that healing the hurt masculine in this world will create a significant amount of change for the better. Because as I work on my own wounded masculine and have so for the last couple of years, it gives me a more newfound appreciation for the feminine, for the world around me. I blame the outside world less for my problems, and I start to focus on me and what I can improve in myself. And that's self-fulfilling. And that'll keep going, right? Men need direction. We are directional people. The divine masculine is consciousness, is drive, is direction. That is the highest form of the masculine ideal. That's why we carve ourselves into the sharpened, strong, masculine individual, right? And that's what the real depth societally is what Andrew Tate creates, is that he goes, hey, go in this direction, right? That was a terrible Andrew Tate, but fuck. You know, he's got a weird angle. He's got a weird accent, but whatever. Good for him. Yeah, that's what Andrew Tate is. He's just he's an example, and he's on the same vibrational frequency as the hurt masculine. So how do we solve that? Well, you put a better example in, or you address what the hurt is. And that's painful, that's troublesome, and it's really, really challenging, right? Because you've got to get past that really hurt, fragile, masculine ego to get through to the individual that actually wants to look at themselves and sort their own shit out in a healthy, positive way, as opposed to, you know, band-aiding the trauma and the lack of self-esteem with the superficial, with the material, with these ideas of success. So it's going to be a challenge, right? Changing societal values, ideologies takes a long time. It's often generational. So are we going to fix these sorts of things overnight? No. But, you know, at least we can put into perpetual motion and start the trajectory of healthier masculine examples early on in life, giving men direction, giving men a value system, letting them know how to formulate themselves, and to really, you know, to really perpetuate a better perspective on the masculine and its world, right? Things like, you know, the man cave, you know, which are teaching, you know, youths to be, you know, to be in touch with their emotions and address who they are as individuals, and to create community through bonding with men in a healthy way. Men need competition, they need drive, you know, but they also need connection. But we, unfortunately, generations of hard men and hard times. Yeah, we talk about hard men, good times, soft men, bad times. A lot of the bad times are from the hard exterior of the masculine and the soft, unaddressed interior of the masculine, addressing problems with our own emotions and learning how to self-regulate those sorts of things. And things like even just embracing feminine elements of ourselves without judgment, right? So again, that's a long-term societal shift. How do we fix it? Again, time, examples, and reinforcing positive examples. I just said examples twice. That's how I know I'm running out of information on this topic. But hey, Andrew Tate, weird dude, a symptom of a broader problem within society, I think. Also, here's the thing, last minute thought. You can tell that Andrew Tate is, you know, never trust a guy that always has to wear sunglasses in public, because the eyes are the window to the soul, right? And in reality, the eyes are actually an extended part of the brain. So the eyes are actually connected via the optical nerve in the eyeball directly to the brain itself. It's basically, according to Dr. Andrew Huberman, an external form of the brain. So, I think it's somewhere up to 40% of our sensory information and of the cognitive load in our brains is linked directly to our eyes. And we'll go into some more interesting facts around that in a different ep, talking about why having focus and vision is paramount, and why things like TikTok and the pokies are similar in that they create that addictive perspective. Mostly it's just about reinforcing optical cues. I basically just told you most of it then. But hey, we'll expand on it on a different ep. But anyway, Andrew Tate, fucking hilarious. At an arm's distance. Don't take him seriously. But you know what? He's got some points. To round this off, this ep, something that's really pissed me off over the last couple of weeks is the ridiculous amount of legacy media coverage of the Queen. The Queen is fucking dead. We get it. We knew the moment she died, she was gone. She ain't coming back. What the fuck are we covering? This is literally the end. This is legacy media squeezing the fucking last dregs of topical information that is relevant to its target market, which is basically everyone over 50 because they're too dumb on how to use YouTube and their devices, right? That is all that is left in the legacy media landscape. That's the demographic. It's people dying and people that are addicted to drama, right? If you are still sourcing most of your entertainment from mainstream media, God help you, really. Get some shit checked out. I mean, the thing that really got me was that apparently ABC News did a topic, or a segment on letting the Queen's bees know that the Queen died, and apparently they're in mourning. How the fuck do you tell bees that the Queen is dead without them freaking out about their own fucking real Queen? That's their real Queen, the one in the hive, not the one in the fucking corpse in the fucking coffin. They'd have no fucking clue. And how do you even know that the Queen or the bees are fucking mourning, right? What do? Just fucking smoke them for like 3 days as a way of mourning them? Do the hives have fucking flagpoles that are at half mast? Fucking ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous. It wouldn't surprise me if ABC News just ran a dedicated news channel just focusing on watching the Queen's corpse just deteriorate live 24 hours, 7 days a week for the next fucking, until she's literally bones. It would not surprise me if that happened. It's just, guys, I mean, what do we do about this stuff, right? Just, you got to let things die. This is the death knell, right? It's an app, like, who would be left if, as a figurehead, as a celebrity that would get this amount of coverage? I mean, when Biden carks it, probably not as much coverage, but, it'll get some, and it's not far off, right? Because by the way, the media, the news, literally pre-writes obituaries for dying celebrities. So they have a team of writers at the back end, journalists in air quotes, that will spend their time pre-making historical information about someone that's probably close to carking it, right? The life and times of Betty White or something like that, to be ready so they can be on the button when these people fucking, kick the bucket, so they can be first on it, so they can be pre-prepared, right? This is a war of attention, and if you're first, you've won, right? That's why the news is constantly fighting, channel versus channel at like first news at 4, first news at 4:30, first news at 5, because it is that war for your attention. And they are still relying on this ridiculous trope that their bullshit, attention-grabbing, amygdala-triggering news is of value. And it's a real fucking shame that we are treated societally so poorly. So poorly. I mean, the other day, to round this off, I was at the gym. The only time I see mainstream news or mainstream TV is when I'm at the gym. So they had ABC News and they have Sunrise and shit like that. And they were putting on, so there was a segment on 7 News about how cruises are coming back into fashion and that, hey guys, we're, P&O cruises are back and they're safe as ever. And look at all these old people enjoying this shit and making sure that everyone's vaccinated. And we've got some great deals going on at the moment. And it's a paid for segment inside the news. Again, your attention is for sale. The very thing that caused a significant amount of COVID spread, the Princess Mary P&O cruise, they are willing to pay our trusted news sources to convey the fact that they've got a business to run and that it's safe, old people. You can trust us, right? You might not get COVID, but you're probably going to get dysentery again or some shit, just like your great-great-grandfather, right? Enjoy some scurvy. And it just shits me. It really shits me that we have to go through this. But I guess, hey, I say that now, but you wait till one day I get fucking ads. Yo, I just realized I'm a fucking sellout eventually as well. I've got to put ads in, but I guess it's for things that I would align myself to, right? I will have to chuck ads in at some point. You got to monetize somehow. Yeah, I could be a better hypocrite, but I was frustrated about that, right? Yeah, I'm sitting here acting like I'm not for sale in some degree or form. I'm in sales. There's always a number. Everyone's got a number. But hey, anything that I will sell in the future, I believe in or will use myself. That is my commitment to you, right? And just going to put it out there now. Sponsors, come at me. I'm listening. You got it. I have to use you. Fuck, I would love an On It sponsorship. On it. Get on it. Hit a brother up. I'm down for it. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the show for this week. Thank you very much for paying attention. If you like what I'm doing here, if you want to give back in some way, please like, subscribe, 5-star reviews on, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Pods, all that good stuff. Send this pod to a friend, right? Get the word out there. That's what we're all about, right? Spreading positivity, good vibes. That's my commitment to you, dear bingers, is that you're only going to get the best of me, the most honest parts of me, and as much as I can give you to help you live your highest self. I mean, we've talked about me for this episode, but hey, we'll get back to regular programming about giving you some tools to become a bad motherfucker. I would usually plug Aussie Comedy Network here now, but we've just talked about why that's not going to happen. So what are you going to do? Yeah, again, share it around. Footscray Comedy Club, still going. More gigs coming soon. It's summertime. It's getting warmer. Great time to enjoy some comedy. Come out. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much, bingers. I'll see you again next week. Take care. Mwah.